Geordie Prepper here. Wow, what a difference 24 hours makes. Holy cow. So, US and UK have started hitting Houthi targets. Seems that they've done one round of strikes. They're going to wait and see what the Houthis do next. And then based on that, they'll probably respond in kind with other strikes if the Houthis don't stop attacking ships in the Red Sea. This was all happening as I was collecting together articles for today's video. So I'm just going to go through the articles that I had for today's video. Obviously this Houthi thing and the attacks by the US and the UK is massive. Potentially could lead to a big escalation, but some of the talking points in this video kind of covers that. And we do talk about Houthis and Yemen on the last articles in the video, so stay tuned for those. Basically what we're going to be looking at is, this is the focus on the Middle East video. So we're just going to cover a couple of things to do with Gaza, Egypt and the Suez Canal, etc. And then we're going to go into the more recent events. So it looks like Egypt was mediating a deal to end the Gaza war permanently. Then Salah al-Aruri was assassinated. And obviously Israel and Hamas and the other parties that are all involved in this, they all have different reasons for being involved in this conflict and reasons to want to get out of the conflict. And it looks like Egypt was mediating these deals, working really, really hard behind the scenes to get the two parties to start a ceasefire. And they were getting closer and closer to hostage release deals, etc. And then Salah al-Aruri was assassinated on the 2nd of January. And that obviously has put more pressure on Egypt itself, because it seems that Egypt was obviously, it's in Egypt's best interest that this conflict de-escalates, because they are obviously in the area for one thing, so they're affected by these things. They earn a lot of revenue from the Suez Canal. They obviously, one of their primary incomes has been dealt a blow through a surge in trip cancellations, particularly in the south of Egypt. And it was reported in recent weeks by Egyptian tour operators that this was happening, because people are just, they don't want to go to an area of conflict. And again, as it says here, the Suez Canal revenues have also plummeted, the result of the reduced shipping traffic because of the attacks in the Red Sea. Global shipping companies have suspended shipping through the Suez Canal until further notice. Another party that's involved in this Middle Eastern conflict is Hezbollah. Lebanon has found itself an unwitting battlefield in the war between Israel and the Gaza Strip's Palestinian terrorist factions. Lebanon, whose territory is both the headquarters of Hezbollah, Iran's powerful extension and vanguard of its regional expansionism. It's also a hub of coordination and planning for the resistance Axis's anti-Israel operations. What Hezbollah has not been seeking, however, is opening a full-scale war with Israel, given that Hezbollah's circumstances after Aruri's killing remain the same as before his death. That desire is unlikely to have changed, so it just doesn't seem like they're the ones that are going to be initiating a conflict with Israel, but obviously they'll respond in kind if they're attacked. Obviously in this region with the Middle East there's consequences, but all sorts of consequences, you know, on life and property, but there's also financial consequences. And this article here is just basically talking about what the global consequences could be. It says here, with the conflict ignited by the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel still occurring, it's difficult to predict what decisions the players will make tomorrow, let alone in a week or a month. And it makes it challenging for other nations impacted by the conflict to craft their policies. What we know in these early days are the early warning signs that could indicate particular actions from major players or illuminate the thinking of parties to the conflict and external stakeholders. It's obviously an evolving conflict, things that are happening, and your response to things today could be completely different to how they are tomorrow. You know, it's not just people on the ground, civilians, military people, in corporate settings, financial, all that sort of thing, commercial. All their responses are based on what's happening at the time, and in this sort of thing where it's happening and changing on a daily basis, it's you're obviously having to change your priorities and your policies depending on it. So now we get through to the more recent events of Thursday night and into today, Friday the 12th. The US, this was obviously starting to break last night, and there was articles coming out in mainstream media hinting at attacks by the United States and the US. I mean, they probably know that it's coming through their own intelligence channels, but once you start seeing it on the media, you're talking like within an hour or two, or it's already happening. And, you might see it here first before your own intelligence actually cottons onto it. I mean, if that would happen, then you probably want to fire your intelligence service. But, you get what I mean. Like, these people always seem to, whenever you see in the media, like the build up to the attack, like it always seems to be like a day or two ahead. Or we're getting word that they're going to announce attacks. Then obviously we get the joint statement coming out on 12th of January. Basically saying that they've started attacks on the Houthis. And I'll just read a little bit here. In response to continued illegal, dangerous and destabilizing Houthi attacks against vessels, including commercial shipping, transit in the Red Sea, the armed forces of the United States and United Kingdom, with support from the Netherlands, Canada, Bahrain and Australia, conducted joint strikes in accordance with the inherent right of individual and collective self-defense, consistent with the UN Charter, against a number of targets in Houthi-controlled areas of Yemen. So they're obviously justifying this as a defensive option. But we can see here that this is going to have bigger and wider consequences. And from a national level in Britain, and whichever country you're in, I think you want to pay attention to your terror threat level. So this site is MI5. This houses the current threat level for England, Wales, Scotland, Northern Ireland. So the current national threat level is substantial. That puts us in the middle. So you have low, moderate, substantial. This is where we're at now. And then above that you have severe, and then above that you have critical, which is the highest level. The link to this site is in the description. You just want to keep an eye on this, because I can see that they're going to raise this level. I mean, I would expect them to, because simply by just doing this very initial attack on the Houthis, they've got to expect that there's going to be a higher level of terrorism in EU and United States. It would simply make sense from a pure precautionary measure. So keep an eye on this, guys, and just be more careful when you're out and about. Don't have so many things distracting you. Take your headphones out. I know it's good to listen to music on the way to work, but that really narrows your perspective and narrows your vision, and what you can hear around you, and it distracts you too much. So just take some extra precautions so that you can be more aware of your environment around you. If your headphones do have like a pass-through or a mode which lets you bump up the volume of the environment around you, it might be worth just doing that rather than listening to music. Look at taking alternative routes to and from work. Make sure that public services are running, and what sort of things could be maybe interfere on your route to work. And just take some more precautions as well, like carry a bit of water with you in a bottle. Take a mask with you if you can. I mean, like a proper respirator, not like a face nappy. And just take some extra precautions, and maybe even change what bag you use when you're going around to work or or going around town, just carry like a couple of extra things with you, which could help you, including a first aid kit. And then we have this reactions to the UK and US airstrikes on the Houthis, and basically they're saying here that, the US and the United Kingdom, they haven't really kept it quiet. The consequences were promised, and now they've delivered, simply because they've had to. I mean, if they promise all this action and then they don't deliver, it just gives everybody, not just the Houthis, it just gives them license from their point of view to do this, because if you've got a dog that's barking and it never bites, you're basically free to do whatever you want, and you can do things with impunity. So basically this article, it's kind of patting the Biden on the back. It's talking about additional airstrikes. I'll leave links, obviously, as always, in the description for you to go through this. I found that what they were saying in here, there's a lot of things to consider and to think about when you're going through this, and obviously, just relate that to where you are and what you're doing with your preps right now. And then we go on to that the threats from Yemen are increasing. In fact, after these strikes, the Houthis were basically saying that they're still going to continue the attacks, and they're going to start attacking US and UK interests in the area. So they'll target the ships that are targeting them, basically. This is only going to escalate things. Basically, this first strike from the US and the UK is basically saying to the Houthis, right, okay, we've issued the threats, we've delivered, it's your turn. What are you going to do now that you know that you're going to face this type of response if you do continue? And then in this article, they're talking about what the attacks mean for the global economy. And if we just go to this map here, you can see basically, what the part of the impact of these attacks. So you got Africa here, and you can see the Suez Canal route, which is in blue. Obviously, they've got this showing going to Dubai, but obviously you can go through the Suez Canal, down the Red Sea, and then you can go into the Indian Ocean, around to other countries, India, Asia. But basically, from this perspective around the African continent, if you're doing trade in this area with the EU, I'm assuming the EU because the route's going to somewhere in the EU there, and Britain. So you can go through Suez Canal, 6,400 nautical miles, takes roughly 14 days. Or if that's blocked, which it was by a ship not too long ago. It's not just conflict which has closed the Suez Canal, but there was a big ship that blocked it not too long ago. And that caused absolute chaos. So with the Suez Canal, a less likely option and a less appealing option for companies now, shipping companies, they're basically having to take a longer route around Africa. And that's 11,300 nautical miles. And that takes between 24 and 26 days. So if you've got a ship and you're coming through and you're wanting to use the Suez Canal, you're taking 10 days, 10, 11, 12 days off your journey time. And then that's 10, 11, 12 days less pay to the crew, less food eaten, less resources taken up, fuel. So this, and then obviously this impacts Egypt, because obviously they get fees whenever ships pass through the Suez Canal. So you can see how, this, even just this causes a big impact. And then obviously as costs increase, if they're having to go a longer route, the shipping container companies, they have to charge people more. So price goes up, availability goes down, or you have to wait a bit longer for it. Alright, that's today's news video. Thanks a lot for watching and supporting the channel. Be safe, be prepared, and I'll see you in the next one.